11 seconds. That is all it took for $60,000 to leave Marcus's account. But it took less than a week for his lifelong best friend to turn their entire town against him. By the time Marcus realized his savings were gone, he discovered something much worse. Everyone in town thought he was the bad guy. Not the man who asked for the money. Not the man who stopped returning calls. Not the man who walked into a hardware store parking lot on a Saturday morning and smiled like he had nothing in the world to answer for. No, they blamed Marcus, the one who had saved for 9 years, transferred without hesitation, and spent the next 18 months trying to understand what he had done wrong. That is where this story begins. Not with the transfer, with the smile. Because the money, as brutal as losing it was, could eventually be quantified. What Darnell did to Marcus's reputation in that small town was something else entirely. In a place where 4,000 people share the same grocery store, the same church parking lot, and the same long memory, a lie told to the right people at the right time does not stay alive for long. It becomes the version everyone knows. To understand why Marcus clicked send without a second thought, you have to go back 30 years. Because Darnell was not just a guy from church. He was the man who stood beside Marcus at his mother's funeral and did not say a single unnecessary word the entire day. He just stood there, which was exactly what Marcus needed. He was the man Marcus called at 2 in the morning the night his first business idea collapsed, and Darnell answered on the second ring and stayed on the phone until Marcus had talked himself back to solid ground. 30 years of that. 30 years of the kind of friendship that does not require explanation because it predates the need for one. Marcus was the steady one. Showed up to work every day at the logistics company. Saved methodically. Paid his bills ahead of schedule. Drove a truck with brakes that needed replacing for 14 months because he was building something and refused to touch the savings. Darnell was the other kind. Ideas always running a little faster than his resources. The energy in every room he entered. The man the whole town smiled at. They had complimented each other since childhood in the way that only very old friendships do. Darnell came to Marcus in February with a proposition. A commercial vehicle purchase. A logistics subcontracting operation he had been building, ready to scale. He needed $60,000 to close it. The opportunity was time-sensitive. He had a repayment schedule already typed out and photographed on his phone. He used the word loan. He used the phrase pay you back. He presented it the way a man presents something he intends to honor. Marcus asked 3 questions. Darnell answered all of them clearly. Then Marcus transferred the money. Not because the paperwork was perfect, but because 30 years of showing up had built something that felt more reliable than any document. He transferred it on a Thursday afternoon. It left his account in 11 seconds. Then, 6 weeks in, a curveball. Darnell sent back $3,000. Unprompted. Before Marcus had even asked for a dime. The bank memo read, "First installment plus a little extra. Told you I'd handle it." Marcus showed his wife. He breathed a sigh of relief. He felt foolish for ever doubting his friend. But that $3,000 wasn't a repayment. It was an investment. Darnell had bought himself 6 more months of silence for the low price of 5% of what he owed. Then, the calls became less frequent. Darnell had reasons, supplier issues, contract negotiations, paperwork taking longer than expected. The reasons were detailed. They were plausible. And Marcus accepted them. The way you accept explanations from someone whose word you have always taken without question. Then the calls stopped. The texts delivered, but were not read. On a Tuesday evening, Marcus sent a message and watched it sit beneath 2 gray ticks that did not turn blue. The following morning he called. Generic voicemail. Not Darnell's voice, an automated system. The kind that appears when someone has made a specific decision about who can reach them. He tried Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, every platform they had ever used to communicate. The same result. Not unreachable. Blocked. Marcus drove past Darnell's house that evening. The lights were on. The car was in the driveway. Darnell was home. He simply was not available to the man he owed $60,000. Marcus called Curtis, a man who had known both of them since primary school. The kind of mutual friend who exists at the center of every long-term friendship group. He kept the call casual. Asked if Curtis had spoken to Darnell recently. Curtis went quiet in a way that was not casual at all. Then he said, "I was wondering when you were going to call me." Darnell had been talking. Not loudly, quietly, which is more effective. To the right people, in the right settings. with the measured and slightly sorrowful tone of a man managing a difficult situation he had not created. His version was simple. Marcus had offered the money as a gift between friends, had changed his mind somewhere along the way, and was now causing problems over what had always been a personal gesture. He had mentioned this at church, at a cookout, in a parking lot conversation, to at least 4 people Marcus saw regularly, in a town of 4,000. 4 conversations is a sufficient foundation for a version of events that begins to feel like common knowledge. Marcus went home and opened his phone. He found the original text exchange. Darnell using the word loan 3 times across different messages. Writing pay you back twice. Sending a photographed repayment schedule with monthly amounts and a projected completion date. And then he found the $3,000 return transfer. Darnell's own banking note described it as loan repayment installment 1. The word gift appeared nowhere. Not in 30 years of messages. Not in the conversations leading up to the transfer. Darnell had labeled it a loan right up until the moment it became inconvenient for him to have done so. Then came the Saturday. Marcus was in the hardware store parking lot when Darnell's car pulled in. He had about 4 seconds. He kept walking. They met at the entrance. Darnell saw him and smiled. The full, warm, easy smile of a man who had nothing to apologize for, and no intention of apologizing for it. He said Marcus's name like they were picking up a conversation from last week. 2 men from their church congregation stood 10 feet away. Marcus asked one question. He asked when Darnell intended to return the money. Darnell's smile did not move. He said, at a volume the 2 men nearby could hear without straining, that he and Marcus had always had a different understanding of what that money was. That he thought they were past this. That he hoped Marcus was doing okay. He didn't defend himself. He didn't argue. He just weaponized pity. By hoping Marcus was doing okay. In that tone, in that setting, in front of those specific witnesses, Darnell had done something precise and deliberate. He had signaled to everyone watching that Marcus was the unstable one. The one who needed to be handled gently. The one who was not, perhaps, doing okay. Then he walked inside. Marcus stood in that parking lot. The 2 men from church looked at him with pity. He nodded, got in his truck, and drove home without the paint he came to buy. He had been completely, flawlessly outmaneuvered. Before we see how Marcus fought back in court, tell us in the comments. Has someone ever paid you back just enough to make you stop doubting them? Right before they took everything? We read every single one. And if you want to see how this small-town villain narrative unravels, hit that subscribe button right now. Marcus consulted an attorney the following week. She told him the text messages, the transfer record, and Darnell's own loan repayment installment 1 label gave him a solid case. Filing was straightforward. Collecting was a separate matter entirely. Marcus filed anyway. The town divided the way small towns divide. Not dramatically, not with declarations, but with a quiet repositioning of people who do not want to be caught on the wrong side of something. Some people had known Marcus longer and believed him without discussion. Some found Darnell more likable and preferred a version of events that required less of him. The majority, and this was what Marcus had not anticipated, simply stepped back from both men and waited. Marcus had lived in that town his entire life. He had coached youth football. He had helped families move house. He had shown up consistently for decades. And now he sat in the same church as a man who owed him $60,000 and watched people choose their pews with new care. The court date arrived. Darnell brought a lawyer. He did not dispute the amount transferred. He disputed what it was. Maintained the money had been a gift. That the $3,000 returned was goodwill, not acknowledgement of debt. The judge reviewed the text messages, the repayment schedule, the transaction label. The judge ruled in Marcus's favor. Judgment for $60,000 plus interest. Darnell did not pay. A court judgment is a piece of paper that says you are owed something. It does not move money. Marcus learned this over the following 2 years. Through his attorney, through the process of tracing assets that had been arranged to be untraceable, through the particular exhaustion of winning a legal case and discovering that winning and recovering are not the same thing. The vehicle Darnell had described in February, the one the loan was supposedly for, was registered in a family member's name. The accounts the attorney located were empty or belonged to his wife. After 2 years of wage garnishment proceedings, Marcus recevait $14,000. His attorney fees reduced even that figure. The math was not complicated. It was not kind. Marcus had saved that money over 9 years. He had driven a truck with failing brakes for 14 months because he was patient and careful and believed that discipline returned something. He said no to things his family wanted because he was building toward something. What he built, in the end, was a lesson he had not enrolled for. One that cost him 9 years of savings and delivered nothing but clarity in return. The clarity, when it came, was worth something, even if it could not be deposited. He kept going to his church. Same pew. Same Sunday. Not because it was comfortable, because leaving would have meant Darnell had taken that too. And Marcus had already decided what Darnell was and was not going to take from him. The people who had chosen careful neutrality saw him there every week. Some of them drifted back. Not with an apology. Small towns don't work that way. Just with a nod that meant something different than it used to. That was enough. He coached youth football the following season. He kept showing up to the same things he had always shown up to, just in slightly different locations. He did not post about what happened. He did not perform his grievance for the town. The people who asked directly, he told directly. The people who had chosen Darnell's version, he left to it. The following Saturday morning, he drove to the hardware store. He parked in the same lot. He walked through the same entrance. He bought the paint he had come for the week before. He drove home and used it. Some things a person reclaims in small, deliberate acts. That was one of them. Has someone ever paid you back just enough to make you stop worrying, and then taken everything anyway? Tell us in the comments. We read every one. If this one stayed with you, smash that like button and subscribe.